Hello and welcome to the Self-Empowered Podcast. I'm Abby Marie and I am passionate about helping female entrepreneurs activate their queen energy fast so that they can start living their life, their dream life, and, unlocking unconditional love, creating their dream job, healing their bodies, releasing past trauma, discovering self-worth, and helping to empower other women. Woo! How exciting is that? Who wouldn't want to activate their energy fast? Now, I have a live event that is coming up on the 15th of December. So I'm going to pop a link in the comments. Click on that. It's a free Activate Your Queen Energy Live. I'm going to share with you how you can, unlock and unleash all of that energy. Now, today I am super excited to welcome Aoife. Now, Aoife is a fellow sister of mine who is a mind-body coach who helps women to heal their body so that they can live life fuller and freer. Okay, so she helps women free from pain and symptoms that have been holding them back in their lives, teaching them the tools and the techniques that will open up their world in a brand new way. So welcome and thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited to hear about your story and how you overcome and healed fibromyalgia and what you're doing now to help other women. And what I'm so excited about today's episode is that we're going to talk about body pain and how even though we might look different and be in different parts of the country and have different lifestyles and have different diagnosis, we're all kind of controlled. We have been controlled by that vicious cycle of pain. And I'm really excited to just be bouncing from you, and sharing our stories and the similarities and what we've both done to help ourselves to come out of that light. And just, I don't know about you, but for me, I was just like, I just felt so hopeless about it, like you'd get a trigger and then it's like, what can you do? You can't do anything about it. And then the more you think about trying to fix it, the pain comes in and then that whisper, and it's just horrible.
Super rough. And for me, it was like my whole life just like not knowing, like no matter where I went to like from a really young age, I was going to like homeopaths, and like my parents are really alternative, but I was also going to consultants, and like I was like admitted into hospital at times, and not one person in 31 years was able to tell me what was going on. And like, so
wow,
the stress and confusion, I mean, now we know it's at the nervous system and all that is at the root of it. And you're just like adding on all that stress and confusion. It's just like, it's a nightmare. Legit. Like.
Yeah, exactly. And then you think now, and it's like, how is the body meant to heal when you are going through all of that stress? Just that on just such a cellular level just activates so many your stress receptors and inflammation and your adrenaline. So it's like, no wonder it wasn't healing. Were you on like a lot of medication and things like that as well?
So there was no medication available for anything that I like, for any of my symptoms. And I also was like quite alternative. Like I studied holistic therapy, and my parents are kind of hippies and my grandparents. So I had this like really, really strong desire to find a way. Like, however, when for me, shit really hit the fan in 2017. One of my really good friends killed herself. And I was in 2 car crashes and a bad relationship. And then I was just like, see ya, like I was done then. And I was super like in the darkest depths of it. I had just been about like keeping my head above water for so many years. And I'm just like, boom. So I did start then. I was just like, give me anything. And so I started to try SSRIs, Valium, Xanax, amitriptyline. I just like, once you say yes, once you say yes to any of them, they were just like, sure, take this, and take this. So, but
Yeah.
for me, it actually didn't work, and I just felt like I was like on drugs, which like obviously I was, but like it felt like I was high, and then I was like, well, I can't drive. Like, are you sure it's okay to drive when I'm not taking medicine? So then I stopped really suddenly. Like, I was only on all that for a few weeks, and then I just stopped them all, and then I went through this really intense withdrawals where it felt like I was in like Train Spotting, the movie. And so for me, that was the only experience of medication. So I didn't have like long term on medication, having to come off them or anything. Have that as part of my story. What about you?
Yeah.
Medication?
Yeah. A lot of things in life, actually. So yeah, I was on like a lot of really strong painkillers. So I'm allergic to kind of your anti-inflammatories and things. So the next level of medication was, your strong stuff that does knock you out. And then as well, like, they'd also popped me on like anti-anxiety medications and the Valium as well. And at that time when the endometriosis started, that's when I was also going through like I was going through anxiety and grief and PTSD. So what was happening is that I found that my symptoms would increase when I would get triggered by dates or memories or anything like that. So then, I'd go to the doctors and they'd say, oh, just increase. So then I would increase that and then, self-medicate and then start drinking alcohol to try and numb the brain and the mind and then try and numb the body. And it was just this complete toxic cycle. Like, it was so bad. And I remember, like, it would knock me out, so it'd be to the point that I'd spend days on the couch just in uncontrollable pain, and I'm sure you know what that pain is like, and not being able to move, and I've got the two little kids at home, and it's just not a way to live. And then so I started going down the surgery route. So I've had probably six or seven surgeries over the last few years to remove the lesions, and then ended up.
That's a laparoscopy, is it? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, well, so I started with that, and then they went to the next stage of, what was it? I think it's like an abrasion, so where they burn the cervix, or the lining, sorry, and then that would give me a few months of relief, and then all the pain and everything would come back. I ended up just having a hysterectomy, and 2 years later, the pain was worse. It's grown back more than what it was before. And then I was just back to that cycle. So then, of course, my mind is going back to that. This is hopeless. What am I doing? Why does life have to be so hard? Like, pain is such a killer, like, when you allow it to get into your mind, or when you allow your mind to get into your body, really, it can really take over. Were you having like severe attacks and stuff with your
pain? So for me, like, my symptoms started when I was a kid, like 2-3 years old. I started I would have, first of all, I would have chronic yeast infections. I would get cold sores all over my face, and I complained of a stomach ache, like, ow, my tummy. And then I started to get reoccurring fevers. My body would go into a fever, a really high fever.
Wow.
I was like hospitalized once, and there was no pathological process. I didn't have an infection. And so I was always sick. I was like this sick kid. I was talking to a client the other day, and she was like, have you ever seen The Secret Garden? You know that kid? I was like, oh my God, that was me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that sick kid. Like, and so, and there's just always this like unexplained thing. She has pyrexia of unknown origin. What's that? Unexplained fevers. She has IBS. What's that? Irritable bowel syndrome. It's like it's nothing. It's like there's just
Yes.
the vagueness is just like it's just like air.
Mm-hmm.
So that went on, and I would have like these body pains. Ow, my legs feel sore, my arms feel sore, I'm shivering, and I have a fever. And that was just going on all the time. I missed like loads of school, and then we moved I grew up in East London, and we moved then to Ireland, and that was the when we moved and my fevers went up.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was obviously not processing. No one was processing what was happening, like the grief of moving and the fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
then I was admitted into hospital in Ireland, and they kept me in hospital. I was 7. They kept me in hospital by myself for like a week, and they did blood tests every day, like all day, all these specialists, like urine test, breathe into this, do this. And then they diagnosed me as mystery girl.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And they suggested that I would grow out of it. So like kind of ignore it and it'll go away.
Yeah.
So obviously it didn't. And I started to get bullied then in school. You know, I was just like this like weakling with this. And obviously I was like probably just like angry and, you know, or whatever. I had these belief systems that were, I was scared. I was like probably codependent, like latching on to people, trauma bonding with other kids or whatever.
Yes.
So then I just remember then just entering this years. It just went on for years and years of like just being horrendously bullied. And because I'm still working on this belief system that I didn't feel like anyone had my back, right? So I never told anyone. I didn't trust no one, no adults, nothing. I didn't tell anyone. So I used to like hide in my bathroom, my parents' bathroom, like to delay going into school because I was like terrified.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was like also like this just like sick child kind of,
yeah.
You know, it all kind of feels very the same. But then I was a teenager, became a teenager, and like what you were sharing there about the numbing with the alcohol. Once I found alcohol, I was like running with this one.
Yes.
I am
I hear
confident.
you.
I am loud. I am like this. I don't feel anything. I was like, boom. I may be 14 years old, but I think I found my calling. And then I partied for a long time after that. I was like really into drugs and alcohol.
And the only thing about that, like, so I call myself Tiffy. So that's like the version of me who was going through that time of finding, you know, alcohol and medication to, you know, become this person who wasn't that pain anymore, right? And so I call her Tiffy, and she was someone who was just, you know, confident and strong and just, you know, didn't take anything from anyone, and, you know, would just, she'd light a fire if she needed to. Like, I didn't, but if I needed to, you know, I would just go nuts. And, you know, she was quite reckless, but just didn't care and would stay up all night and just do whatever. And I remember the next morning where I'm like, oh no, I let her out again. And then, you know, my body is in pain, and the regret and the guilt and the hangover is all coming in. But, you know, when I started to do some healing, and I kind of, instead of shaming that part of my life, I really, you know, just thanked her, because without that part of our life, it's kind of like how I see mine. I'm not sure if you see for yourself either, but it's like at that moment we felt amazing. But for me, looking back, that was like my rock bottom moment, that it was like I needed to use external sources, even just, you know, men and things like that, to try and fill that need that I was missing. And that, when I look at it now, I'm like, wow, like that was kind of rock bottom for me. And I needed to hit that point to then be able to step up and go, hang on a minute, I need to be a better role model. I need to take care of my body. Like what I was eating and putting in there was horrible. And it's like, I needed that to then grow and be who I am now. Do you relate kind of the same as well? Like,
so I started partying like hard around 16, and I stopped when I was 24, 25. And I have so much love for that time. And like, you know, there was no other option at the time. I was literally like, this is how I can be the best version of myself, even though obviously I wasn't. But I was like, this, especially for me with like, when when I started taking drugs in this beautiful community of amazing people who I still know, like it was like this heart opening. We were sharing, and of course, it's not a sustainable like lifestyle, but yeah, it was just like that was me doing anything I could to be the best version of me. Like you said, like I could be loud, I could be confident, I could be, everyone always thought I was so funny, whereas when I'm sober, I'm like super like yeah, whatever. So I was just like, oh, this is like, I felt like it was unleashing, so, and I, like, me and my friends, we often chat about those times, and they're so wild and so crazy, and we also always connect to that wound. Like we're just like, oh, we were such little wounded little munchkins, like, you know, we just wanted to like love and laugh and play, like, you know, because I would be going to the festivals all the time covered in glitter, dressed up like pixies, and like we truly were just kids. We wanted to play.
Yes.
We didn't
I'm getting goosebumps. Yeah, I can fully resonate with that.
Yeah, we didn't feel like we could do that. We'd get there, we'd get dressed up, and we'd be all like anxious and rigid and covered in glitter, and then we'd just start like caning it, like drugs and alcohol, and then we could play.
Yes,
we could do that anyway.
So what was the turning point for you? Is there a moment that you think of where you healed? Like what would be something or some advice that you would share with someone who, you know, is kind of going through what you went through?
A turning point for me was when I decided to stop partying and I wanted to heal. It's really interesting for me to reflect on this because like what I did was I gave up drugs and drink and sugar and gluten and bread, and I started like meditating, and I also decided to clean up my act. So I started studying because I like never really went to school. I was like, I'm going to study hard, I'm going to do everything that society says is like a good girl thing to do, right? And the thing is, I got sicker and sicker and sicker, because even though I was doing like therapy and meditating, and because I was still running these old programs that I wasn't good enough. And I was all the restriction. I ended up on a 7-year journey of gluten-free, sugar-free. I didn't for so long, and all they did was cause more stress.
Yeah, wow. Because you see that so often, that they say, oh, just cut out sugar, or just cut out gluten, or just cut out dairy. And it's like, I think it's a little bit more than that.
Oh my God, dude, I spent years, I didn't eat a grain of sugar, and I was just so neurotic because you end up creating a situation where you become so intolerant to these things because of the stress and the thoughts about the stress about the food. And then so I just like ended up boxing myself into a corner with all these triggers. Can't do that, can't eat that, can't do that, can't do that. So my first turning point was like the decision to like quit and change. And then 7 years later, I'm like boxed into a corner. I have a law degree, and I've like achieved things, but I'm like sitting in a corner. I can't eat any food. I'm like 50 kilos in weight, and I'm just like,
wow.
Yeah, I'm fucked. Like super like suicidal, on disability, living in my parents' spare room, like no one in 31 years has been able to help me. Like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah.
It was super dark, so dark, as you can imagine. Like, why wouldn't it be? Actually, the best thing that anyone ever said to me when I started to express how like suicidal I felt, I just needed to get it out, you know, like I just need to say it. I just need to say it. Obviously, it was really scary for people to hear. But the best thing, I rang this, they're called Pieta House. They're like a suicide support line in Ireland. And I was like, hi. Like, and she was like, so just let me know if like you've been through any events or you have any illness. And I was like, yeah, I have a chronic illness. My friend just killed herself. I was in a bad relationship. I started listing off all the things, and she went, sure, why wouldn't you feel like, obviously you feel this bad? On like, I never forget. She was just like, yeah, of course you feel like that. Not like, stop, just feel better, stop saying, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's so taboo, like you're not allowed wanna die, kind of like, no matter what's going on. It's like, just suck it up, soldier. I don't know. It's just like, I'll never forget her kindness. She was like, of course, like, why wouldn't you? So I didn't know if there was, you know, and the medication didn't work for me. It didn't even take the edge off things. But one day I was on, someone sent me a link on Instagram to this chronic pain app, and I listened to a pain science, just a short like interview on pain science and the connection of the nervous system and neural pathways and neuroplasticity. And that was the moment everything changed then.
Wow. Yeah, that's so exciting. I find when people, when you do express kind of what's going on in your mind and how hard life feels at that time, and someone, a kind person, does say those words like, well, why wouldn't you? Or, you know, like, yeah, that's a lot of shit to go through. Like, of course you're going to be. And it's like someone just takes off that heavy jacket, you know, that you've just been holding on, and just that all that shame, and just like, oh no, and then you're stuck in your head going around and around and around. And then I don't know about you, but for me, when I've got that heavy jacket on, I'm like thinking like, you're such a screw up, why can't you just get rid of it? Why can't you just be happy? Why can't you just move forward? Like, you're doing so bad. And then just, you know, beating yourself up. And yeah, you go and speak to people who are doing the best they can with the resources that they have, of just being like, hey, just shake it off, you're fine, you know, big smiles, everything's great. And you're just like, no, it's not. Like, I'm in a really, really dark place right now. And that when you meet that person who just gets you and is like, it is okay to you know, be feeling this way, I think it's amazing. But then again, it's like, that's when we can take it as that moment and just going, oh, okay, restart. Now let's keep like focusing forward and seeing where we can go now. Like,
totally. And yeah. I think there is like, I'm pretty sure there's a common thread with people with chronic pain and illness, and being, I think, sensitive for one, and then also being really hard on themselves, like blaming themselves for everything. So like, I often share like that when I went to therapy in that suicide prevention place, like the therapist I went to see, she was just like newly qualified, so maybe she hadn't had many clients yet, but she was genuinely shocked, horrified at how mean I was to myself. She was like, yeah. So that's the thing, like, these things, events happen in life, like life happens, but then it's like, I had these programs that just like turn it into a loop of like shaming myself. And it's just an opportunity for these old programs to like feed more. And of course, those programs were like rampant already, because you're like, fucking have no joy in my life, because everything revolves around what I can and can't eat, what I can and can't do, and how I can not be in total pain all the time. You're already like empty of joy, self-worth, everything is like empty in these programs are just having a fucking party, and then
Yeah.
whatever, then you're just like, okay.
No, I can relate so much with that. Like when those programs just have a party, they just go off, don't they?
They go
And
nuts.
you're
They're like,
like,
freak
how is
out.
awesome? Like a little house party, you're that neighbor next door calling the cops and setting noise complaints, and they're like, woo!
Oh my God, I feel like we're not even the neighbor. We just think it's normal. We're the person sitting on the couch just being like, yeah, this is just how life is. Does anyone like know how to stop it?
Yeah.
Everyone else on the street is like, what the fuck are you doing in there? Get out. Do something. You're like, this is how life is. What are you talking about? You're like, how do you sleep? You're like, I don't.
Yeah. So many people used to say to me like, oh, what's your sleep like? I'm like, what's sleep? Like, what do you mean? Like, do you not just function on like a power nap? Like, what is going on? It's like, no wonder we're in so much pain. Just like running off just internal abuse, lack of sleep, no food, zero joy. Like, that's a perfect recipe for just pain and disaster. So now it's like, what does life look like now that we don't have pain and we don't have that internal loop of party animals in our mind? Life is freaking amazing, right? Like,
it's a whole lot different. Like, I just been in the I go into the Facebook groups of like to see if there's anyone I can help there that was where I was, and it's always like so amazing to I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful. I can't believe I'm not confused anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Clarity. So even like life happens, like growth and challenges, but it's like, and like you were saying earlier, like the roller coasters come and go, and we're like rocking and crying at times, but it's I'm not confused.
Yes.
Like, I have the tools. I know the roadmap. I know there's people out there. I know who to reach out to and to go to. And it's like, and then when you have the breakthrough, and you're like, you do the rocking and the crying and the roller coaster, and you're like, it's like whatever, and it's then you have that breakthrough, and you just literally have a gift of insight, a gift of growth, and it's so magical and so deep and so full of love and joy. It's like I just can't believe that everyone doesn't know this, really.
It's quite mind-blowing how one day or one moment you can be feeling so dark, and then you just step out into your growth zone, and then it's like life is clear, and it's like everything just drops into place. All the pieces of the puzzle just connect, and you're like, wow, yeah, like you don't have that confusion anymore. You've got your clarity. You know exactly what happened. I know for me, I can look back at moments where I felt that I was really stuck in that toxic cycle, and I'm like, well, that's when I was doing wrong. Like I can pinpoint now where I was, stuck in my head, not coming into my body, not connecting with my breath, getting lost in, the fear of the past or the fear of the future, and not connecting into the now, like 100%. And I think it's so great, like what we have, and where we can go through our pain and go through the past and have our story. And it's kind of like that zero to hero story now, where we've been through the darkness and we've come out to the light, and we can share with other people, and we can help heal and help just give our wisdom. Like, we now know we're that one step forward compared to the people who were where we started, and I think it's so beautiful that we can use our journey to help others. So you do that. You're doing that now as well, aren't you? You're running programs.
Yeah, I work one-to-one with clients at the moment, and I have clients with back pain, healed back pain, healed fibromyalgia, healed skin. One of my clients, she could never wear eyeshadow because or getting facials, her skin would erupt. healed skin issues. She's like wearing makeup, going on dates with her fella, healed sleep problems, like couldn't finish a day in work, now doing full days, and comes home with loads of energy.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's so, it's like beyond. It's beyond to like, just like all I'm doing, and I'm sure you're the same, is just like telling someone. You're literally just like telling your story, and like, because like you just shared, right? It's like because you were literally there. And like, so when we look back at our past, we're like, oh God, we can see exactly what we're doing. So when you see your client, you're like, you just like, it's like, just rearrange things a little bit and point things out. And then it's so simple and so beautiful. And also it gives me like, I mean, I was so sick for so long. I just thought, this was me, this was my life, whatever. And it's just like, wow, that I went through all of that for such a beautiful, like, for that's just turned into like my total power, my gift to the world.
I love that. That's so amazing. It really is heartwarming. We'll put your socials in the links, but are you on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm Aoife Mind Body on Instagram, and yeah, on Facebook as well. My personal Facebook and my Facebook group Freedom from Fibromyalgia and IBS. So yeah, I think that's all the places you can get me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, everyone, just follow along and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.